first of all, will you please your name, please?
It's Lincoln Bloomfield, Jr.
Lincoln Bloomfield Jr.
I say Junior because there's another Lincoln Bloomfield who is my father, and he's 90 years old, but he has been a professor at MIT, Professor Emeritus now. And so my answer begins by saying, I'm the son of an academic. So I asked, maybe, should I try to teach? And the answer that I said, that I gave myself was no. You're not ready to teach because you don't know anything. You see? I felt not ready to tell someone else what to think. I wanted to go out into the world, see as many things as I could see, try different things, not in a reckless way, but have some experience. So my advice to you is sometimes you will have a job that you don't like. It might be an assignment or a temporary portfolio, and you say, this is boring. Or my friend has a much better job. My friend is having so much excitement. I'm doing a boring job. My advice is do the best job you can. Do an excellent job. If you have to write something, write the most professional job you can. Show how well you can write. If you have to speak and tell your boss what your conclusion is, think about it before you go in the room and then give a good presentation so that they think, well, that was very professional. Maybe the boss will never promote you. Maybe they will just keep you stuck in the same job. So you need to be networking through social media. Maybe there's another opportunity. But always work hard and do the best you can at what you have in front of you. Because if you keep your skills growing all the time, then the moment will come when suddenly it might be your hometown, it might be your extended family. Suddenly everyone's listening to you, and it's your turn. Well, you should be very glad that you forced yourself to be a good speaker. You forced yourself to be a good writer. So now you don't feel, oh, how am I going to do this now? If you're lazy, you won't be very good. But if you're motivated to take yourself seriously, you may not be in charge of a bank, or you may not be in charge of a nonprofit organization or a church today. But the more you excel at everything you do, you will be in charge of something. Because people will say, she's terrific. She's the one who can do this. She's the one who has the skill. That's number one. I would say number two is that when you're working with other people, sometimes people have bad character. You can't help that. It's not your problem. It's their problem. You always want to be a positive person. And if they're willing to work with you, let them take all the credit. Don't ask for the credit for anything. Japanese are very good at this. They're very humble. But just do the best you can, and if someone else wants to stand up and take all the credit, everyone's going to know who did the work. They will know who did the good work. So your character will build your reputation. And I would say also, and this is a hard thing to say to Japanese people because I don't know the culture, the business, the career culture, but try to do things that you are interested in doing. If you're doing, I've heard many friends of mine in government have said, you know, can you believe they pay us to do this? What are they saying? They're saying they're so happy working on this issue. It's so interesting. The meetings they go to, the foreign people they meet, so interesting that the money doesn't even matter because they would do it anyway. So try to do something that's interesting to you. And, you know, this is very hard to say, but even in a culture where people are not supposed to stand up like a nail, people are supposed to be conforming, everyone is different in Japan. Every individual has a certain way about them that's special. And always have confidence that the reason that you made it into this college level is because you are special, because people knew you were good. And every one of you will have an individual destiny, even though the way you do it will not be offensive to anyone else. Be very considerate of everyone else. But you have your own destiny. And, you know, your society needs you. The economy, you have a lot of elderly in Japan. People need innovation. They need new ideas. They need someone to say, I'll help you do this. So they need your strength, your belief, your enthusiasm, and your brains. And I think that if you apply yourself, you may not always be happy in your career at every step of the way. But if you work hard and you believe in yourself and you're positive toward other people, you'll end up happier in the long run, because you know that you worked hard, and you will see the skills improve. And you'll see that you're doing much more senior and important things because of these skills. So, and try to be positive about things. We have an expression in America, with a glass of water, and it's halfway full. And the people who are pessimists say it's a glass half empty. Look how much water is missing. We're going to fail. It's a disaster. Someone else will say, it only needs this much to get full. So it's the glass half full. I'm an optimist. Sometimes a little bit wrong. Things don't work as well as I want them to. But if you believe in what do I have to do to go from here to a full glass, you will be much more valuable to your society, to your culture, and to your country. And the other thing is, you cannot predict what will happen. You may apply for a job and say, I want to work at this bank, I want to work at this trading company, I want to go overseas, I want to work in the foreign ministry. And then the disappointment that doesn't happen. But I'm not a fatalist, but because of these good characteristics of trying hard, of taking yourself seriously, don't ever let a change in your career status define you. Just because that job didn't come to you doesn't mean you're bad in any way, shape, or form. It just means your destiny will go in a different direction. And the next thing that comes your way might be a great opportunity. The last thing I would say, and I don't know if this works in Japan, I don't know if I would be sitting here the same way if I hadn't had amazing bosses working close to me. When I got to take my paper and up front and show it to the boss, that was Rich Armitage, a young Rich Armitage. So, and he has so many skills, but I was the one who, I like to write, I could take good notes, I could be a counselor to him. We went to 50 countries during the 1980s. As young, I was just his aide. And he would talk, I would take the notes, we would talk in the car. He was the big boss, I was the junior one. But I had a great boss. And so as he became bigger, he pulled me into bigger things. So if you can work for someone who is exciting, who's dynamic, who's respected, that's better than working for someone who has no interest and is not even trying to work hard. That's a bad place to be. So if you can be close to exciting, dynamic people and work with them, that's a much better prospect for doing meaningful work. And so I hope those are helpful things. Those are the things that have defined my career. And at the end of the day, you have to be your own judge and be proud of what you are. Don't let some resume like the one Stephen was trying to read. That isn't really who I am. I'm just a guy from Cohasset and a good friend of Steve's, who is grateful for the chance to do anything I can get involved in that's interesting, and to work with people and learn something new, and use these skills in a new way every day. So I wish you all great luck, and I admire you very much for coming to Washington to see what's happening here.
I wanted to make one point about Lincoln's father, because earlier Lincoln Bloomfield was talking about how, and when you look at Japan, sometimes there's 24 generations back. I only know of one Bloomfield before this Bloomfield that's sitting here, but his father Lincoln described as an academic, and that's true. But I think Link knows that his father was also in the diplomatic corps, and that carried over, interestingly, his diplomatic experience, including in the foundation of the United Nations. His father was there and was one of our diplomats at San Francisco. And the very beginning, I guess what we'd say, the end of World War II, but the beginning of the Cold War at that time. But more importantly, I think Professor Bloomfield, who's Professor Emeritus at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and anyone that's been in Boston knows this is a place where to get in is extremely difficult. To stay in is even more difficult. And the kind of people that they pick to be the professors are not just academically smart, but they tend to be innovators, whether in science, in political science, or whatever. But I've always been impressed by the fact that I didn't know much about Lincoln's father when I was growing up. But after I came to Nikkei, one of the things that I read about, and actually we interviewed his father at the Japan Inn, which is a restaurant here that no longer exists. And I learned that his father was in charge of developing one of the first, what they called conflict simulations between the United States and the Soviet Union. And that he had actually gone to Moscow giving advice and having our leaders participate with the Soviet leaders. And wasn't it about a conflict in the Middle East?
Yeah, I was with him.
And Link was a young man. So this is the thing. What I found fascinating about the fact that a second generation of Bloomfields came along is that between the father and right now, we have a continuum of people that have been in, not just in government service, but in fairly key decision-making roles and innovating. And that's one of the reasons why I asked the question to Link earlier about can a young innovator get somewhere in the federal government?
I think in Washington, yes. I think in American culture, look, we had a market crash in Wall Street in the late 1980s, and 80,000 people lost their jobs.